Jess and I are driving to camp after our first solo, as in not with a guide backpacking trip, and we wanted to share some of our ideas of the things that we have learned, what we won't bring again, what we might have missed before. So let's get into it.
Okay, I have like a rubber plastic spoon. Gross. It like keeps the like flavors of everything you've eaten, so you have like dinner flavor mixed with like your next morning's like oatmeal flavor. Gross. So that's going away. I'm gonna get like a titanium spoon. My camp chair, the like sack to get back in, it's like so annoying to get back into it, but it came with like a like an elastic, like don't need that. Bye. Yeah. Okay, Sea to Summit, the pillow situation. Like, okay, another thing. I want to fucking chuck that thing off a cliff. Hate it. Hate. I've tried it at every level of inflatedness down to like, there's one breath of air inside of it. Horrible. You know what I did do? You know what did work really, really well though? The stuff stack for my sleep pad, and just put my extra clothes in there to my desired firmness. Perfect. And guess what? You don't have to buy overpack anything extra. I don't carry any extra weight. So it's my hot take.
One thing that I definitely feel like we've learned on this trip was the water sources. So we used Far Out. We were on the Appalachian Trail, so we used Far Out, and we were aware that one section might have less water, and so we did carry water from the previous water source, which was really smart. And then as we hiked out this morning, the additional ones were not running. There was a pond that we could have gone off to, but definitely having Far Out downloaded so that you can know the status of where these water sources are supposed to be, so that you're not in any situation. Like, we were still able to have our tea, have our coffee and matcha in the morning, and our breakfast. So like paying attention to your water sources, I think, is crucial, especially like for us. I feel like we've been on so many day hikes where like water, you need more than you think. And so when you're out there for the entire day and then you're thinking about, oh, I need like this much for my dinner and this much for that, like definitely researching your water sources.
It wasn't even like it. I feel like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I have enough for today. I wasn't even thinking about the next day. Be like, okay, what do I need to like cook my breakfast? Yeah. Or, you know, pivot, be like, okay, maybe protein bar for breakfast, and then when I can find water, I'll cook my grits, my oatmeal, whatever you brought for breakfast. Or maybe, you know what? I don't know, if you know you're going to be on trail in a section that doesn't have a lot of water, maybe you just breakfast that don't need water. Yeah. I'm a coffee girl though, so that was going to be a hard one.
So, but we talked about that. We like talked through, like negotiated through like our water usage, being like, all right, so we can ditch our evening tea if we need to, and we can eat like our like a protein bar or another food item until we get to that water source to make the oatmeal. So like we discussed that to know, but I definitely think that was really important. And we also talked to a few of the other people on the trail about it. So yeah, we were able to carry from the last really good water source, and I'll be honest, that was like the last really good water source we saw until we were at the river at the end. So wherever you are, know where your water sources are as well. I also recommend having a cold drink plan if you can. So if you're driving yourself and you're like going to be in your car, maybe you stack a cooler, like freeze something or get it real cold and put a bunch of ice or packs or whatever. So you have, car clothes too, but also like having a cold drink, that was really clutch. We were picked up, so we were able to put an order in, and that was nice. He, brought us waters and sodas, and we're not soda drinkers, but after hiking 20 miles over 3 days,
chugged that 20 ounce.
Oh yeah, that hit the spot. And then also a meal plan for when we got into town. Yeah. We both had crepes. We had savory and a sweet crepe.
So
it was so delicious, but like we knew that that's what we were going to have, so like I felt like it was really motivating to be like, oh, when we get off this trail, we're getting this thing.
Yeah, it was a treat.
Yeah, that was really awesome. So we also had rain on the first like morning that we were out there, so it rained a little bit at that night, and then the next morning, and some of our things got really wet. And so one thing we knew, because we did have a morning where our tent was dewy on our first trip with the guide that we went on, it was finding a spot to like air out the tent. And so when we got to like the first rock bald, it was kind of funny because there was a ton of little rocks all over, like clearly other thru hikers had done this before. And so we stopped and we aired out everything, and things dry really fast, especially if you're wearing appropriate things for the trail that are not cotton. But the tent dried really fast, our shoes, our socks. I took off my shirt, like whatever you needed to. That was really clutch to do.
Also, I wouldn't have kind of thought to do this if I hadn't been with Nicole. So like our tent got wet. It was super dewy where we were hiking on. We went in October, but you can just I didn't put the tent back in my pack wet because that's gonna get like more of your stuff wet. So we like attached it on the outside, so it airs off. It does dry off a little like as you're walking the trail, like you shake off the water or whatever. But then you're not putting wet things in your pack.
But I think it's totally worth it to take that short break to just let the sun bake off as much of that water, because getting to camp yesterday and having everything dry was really nice. And then we did assess, like there was a few things that still felt a little dewy or damp, and like we just hung them on the trees. And so just being mindful of that. And we saw another hiker that had like literally like a clothesline up. So definitely like taking care of your gear with that. I did have to get into wet clothes on that second morning, but I will tell you, like, it was not as bad as it felt like when I was putting them on, because as soon as my body heat warmed up, they felt dry. So the only thing was my shirt, but I think the shirt is...
And that's on like wearing the appropriate clothing too. It's like we're both in wool. Yeah. Even if it does get wet, it still keeps you warm. So it's like as soon as it got on your body and you're like, oh, it's wet, and then you're like 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. And then as your body heats up, like I felt at times my clothes would dry better if I was wearing them versus like hanging them in the trees.
Yeah.
After the fact. So
absolutely. Interesting. I also have feelings about the Arrows pillow, but I just like inflate it like 1/4 and it seems to work, and I put a buff over it, so if you have one of those, that's an option too. I also liked taking my shoes off when we took longer breaks. I know that's not for everybody. I think Jess joined me on like half of it, but allowing my feet to breathe was really helpful. But we timed our snack breaks, so I was the one that was mostly working on pace and direction, and she was making sure that we were actually eating. And so you don't always get hungry or stay hungry, and so it's really important to still eat. That was something with Katahdin last year that I just did not eat enough, and my body really suffered with that, and the descent was harder than it probably would have been. So highly recommend that you plan your snacks out smart.
Every hour eat something ish. Every hour ish, depending on the train and whatnot, but
I'm sure there's many other tips, so stay tuned. We'll come up with more to share with you guys. But if you're getting started, I think the best thing you can do is just get out there and do it and figure it out. Everyone brings different luxury items. Everyone uses things that they bring, and there's always going to be some things that you don't use. I brought a little extra camera gear than I needed. I brought a microphone that we didn't end up using. So yeah, happy trails.
See you next time.